Hello, and welcome to this Beyond Clean virtual conference. The speakers for today's conference, the sponsors for today's conference, and the Beyond Clean team are all so excited that you're here. If this is your first time joining us for a Beyond Clean virtual event, I want to call your attention to a couple of event functions. All of the windows on your event screen are movable. You can shrink them, you can enlarge them, you can move them, whatever you need to do to create the event feel that works best for you. In the upper right corner is a resources tool. Download conference sponsor information and the resources and links that your speakers have provided for you. On the bottom left, you will see a Q&A or question and answer tool. Any questions that you have for the speaker during each session can be submitted to them using this feature. Our speakers today will bring you a wealth of knowledge, and all of their information can be found in the speaker bio tool on the right side of your screen. Along the bottom are the icons for each of the windows as well. Clicking these will minimize and maximize each window. This will be an action-packed conference, and there will be 15-minute breaks between each of the sessions. So feel free to grab a snack, check on the dogs or the kids, assemble a tray, do some jumping jacks, whatever you need to do before joining us again.
All right. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am Brett Norton with Beyond Clean, and I really would love to first welcome back those of you joining us for another Beyond Clean virtual conference, and extend a warm welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. So if you're here for the first time, get ready. It's going to be a great day. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got a great conference today. It's a one-of-a-kind, PowerPoint-free, a lot of great discussions going to be had throughout the day. So please stick with us. The title of the conference today is the Conference of Champions, Building Best-in-Class Sterile Processing Teams. As I said, we certainly have an expert-packed day of learning ahead of us. So again, please stick with us. Before we get started, I wanted to extend some thank yous to our team over at First Case and also our event sponsor 3M for making this day of education possible. First Case is responsible for handling our nursing credits. So I want to give a big shout out to Melanie and the team over there. So thanks again, guys. We do appreciate bringing in the nursing side of things because, as we all know, it's important to be working hand in hand as a team. Speaking of CE credits, very important. I know you're all wondering how you will get your CE certificates. So please listen. At the end of the conference today, you will be directed to a survey. Once you complete it, you will be able to download your CE certificate. So that comes at the end of the day, so hang with us, like I said before. A little bit of housekeeping. We are dealing with technology, so sometimes things happen. Even though we have a very strong feed on our side, sometimes there can be a glitch while going through the conference today. So if you have any issues with video or audio, the real fix right now, or the best fix, is to go ahead and refresh your browser. 99.9% of the time that fixes it. So please go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, throw those in the chat and I'll be able to help you on that front as well. We have some resources up on the right side of the screen, so please make sure to utilize those. We have some bonus CE content that we rolled out yesterday. That is not part of the conference itself today, so you can access that through those links that are on that panel up on the right side. We also, again, have a resource guide and how to access your CE certificate. So any questions on that, please feel free to reference that as well. Lastly, I want to encourage questions. We love questions, and these discussions are going to be very engaging. So feel free to send them out. Our presenters are here live with us. Hank Balch is going to be moderating, so it's going to be great. I want to invite you to sit back and relax and assemble that tray. It's time to get the event started. Our speakers in this first session that Hank will be hosting are first, Courtney Mace Davis. Courtney is the Director of Sterile Processing for NorthShore University HealthSystem, where she has transformed operations through team building, process improvement, and data-driven decision-making. She's guided her team to the honor of being named the 2022 Sterile Processing Department of the Year by Healthcare Purchasing News. Awesome stuff, Courtney. Embry Alvarez. Embry is the manager of sterile processing at NorthShore University HealthSystem. He originally started his career in supply chain and later specialized in supporting the operating room, where he learned about sterile processing. In his current role, Embry helped assist as a department and organization to improve processes, develop new processes, provide education, and achieve the 2022 HPN Sterile Processing Department of the Year Award. Karen Moore has been devoted to healthcare for over 25 years. Much of this time has been in sterile processing and surgical services and facilities with multiple facilities or specialties, She has a passion for standardization and process improvement, as well as supplying staff with the training and education needed to make a difference in all we do for those we serve. The presentation title for this session is Connections and Quality: The Power of SPD Partnerships. What is the power of creating partnerships in the perioperative setting? How do those partnerships impact sterile processing success and quality of patient care? Find out in this panel discussion with the all-star team from the NorthShore University HealthSystem. Hosted by our very own Hank Balch, you'll hear how NorthShore's SPD team learned how to engender respect for their role through cross-departmental partnerships, accountability, and automation. So let's get started. Let's welcome our panelists.
All right, thank you, Brett. And welcome everyone to the 2022 Beyond Clean Event Conference of Champions. So excited to get into the NorthShore story today. And in all these sessions, we were talking before we went live with our guests for this first session. I want practical takeaways. I want folks to be able to listen to these stories and, give a great round of applause for a job well done. Always proud when we see sterile processing teams excel. But also we want to be able to take some things home with us and, make our own changes in our own sterile processing department. So without further ado, I think we've had a lot of intros here. Let's get into some meat of the conversation. Let's just start with, who you guys are and how y'all ended up at NorthShore in particular. I know Brett kind of gave the bio, but Courtney, let's start with you. What makes you tick? And, how'd you end up at that particular facility?
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Brett and Hank, for having this event. I think this is a really exciting day. So thank you for having us. We appreciate being here. I guess, what makes me tick is people and people development and doing things differently and better. There's always a better way. And that was the feeling I got from day one, walking into the NorthShore team. I had a 2-day interview for a sterile processing director. And it's interesting because with all the recruitment going on now, sometimes you hear people say, man, you should know right away. I took it completely the different direction, and that this institution system values sterile processing. And actually, Embry and Karen were on the interview team when I started. So really wanted a place that valued sterile processing, and that's how I ended up here.
I love that. I actually want to go back to that story here a little bit later about that interview with you guys. But before we get into that, Embry, let's go to you. What's your background a little bit more outside of your bio, of course, and how did you end up on that team?
So I originally, like Brett said, started off in materials. I got an opportunity to work in sterile processing. I actually started working in sterile processing on night shift as an uncertified technician. I ended up getting some hands-on experience and getting my certification, and then stepped into other roles as a senior technician, supervisor in my current role. So what makes me tick is me seeing the team develop, me seeing the team improve, and working with other team members. I could say that that's what makes me tick.
I love that. And I see that, we've been connected on LinkedIn for a number of years, and I have seen that outflow even through your social networking. So that's a great share there. Karen, what makes you tick? And like Brett said, 25 years in healthcare service. I mean, that's a tremendous achievement all by itself without this big award. But what brought you to North Shore and what has kept you there?
Well, yeah, 25 years in healthcare, majority of it in sterile processing, and each at multiple organizations. What has really kept me here is seeing all that you learn at every single place you go, and what you learn there. When you go to the next place, you realize how you can use what you have learned at that place. And each place you go, I really love learning more and putting that learning into action and helping others. And as I was in sterile processing, what really makes me tick is just when I realized the importance of everything that we do beyond processing, assembling the trays and sterilizing. What happens after that? And how can I share that with others and make sure they see that this is not just a job, this is really something special that other people have no idea exists.
Oh yeah, that's the right. Like, you're constantly surprised when you talk to family and friends or just someone on the street about, hey, like, what do you do? And you get to explaining, and their eyes get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're like, whoa, like they reuse the instruments. Whoa, there's people that are like inspecting and cleaning and testing and packaging. I mean, it's really, really cool. And then Karen, even to your point about, being in a place that provides those constant learning opportunities, I think that's something that has come up in all the years of my experience too, that you never arrive. You don't ever get to the place where you know everything there is to know about sterile processing or even a part of sterile processing. You're always on that journey, and that's such a cool industry to be a part of that it is constantly changing and then constantly challenging to apply that knowledge, as you said, to where you are, whatever department that is. Let's go into the award itself. Obviously, we're gathering the champions today to talk about, the award-winning seasons. And you are the 2022 award winner. So you're the most recent award winner in this conference today. I'm wondering, Embry, let's maybe start with you on a snapshot of what the department and team were like the year prior to the big push, right? So we're talking, if you won the award in 2022, they were really looking at, 2021 in your big application. So the year that the year before this, just so everyone remembers, was 2020. And I don't have to tell you what was going on in 2020, but can you give me a snapshot of just the culture, the process, like kind of the ambiance of the department before you started this big momentum push in 2021?
So overall, the department and departments, because it wasn't just one pavilion, it was all 4 pavilions that we started to work with. What we discovered during tracers and walkthroughs in the department, we had opportunities for improvement. Even from my experience, from a technician who came on that wasn't certified, didn't go to school, didn't get books or anything, I got pretty much hands-on experience. And what I realized then was that we needed more education. And one thing that changed was the education. There was a lack of education initially that the team definitely needed. It was also processes that, as we looked at each pavilion, we started to realize that some of the processes that we was doing at one pavilion wasn't being done at another pavilion, even though it might have been a different service or anything like that, or it could have been the same service. So processes were a little bit different. So standardization was something that we definitely took a look at. Also career ladder. I remember being a technician and trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to be a supervisor, to be a manager? I thought it was just, at the time, I thought it was just, okay, if I'm here for 20 years, I can step into that role. And that's kind of like the culture that it was. It was kind of like, if you're experienced and you have this amount of years, it's expected that you're a senior technician, not based off of what you know, but based off of the years of experience you have. Also, from the experience that I've had, is the trust factor between the OR and SPD and who's owning what. So that was something that we saw improve throughout this momentum and us gaining this award, was that in the past, it was kind of like the OR had to oversee everything and make sure that everything was done right. So with that, we had to address that issue. We had to train the staff, educate the staff a little bit more.
Yeah, you laid out a lot there. And I think it was a lot that.
And I'm sure I'm missing some right there too as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I'm going to throw it around to the other panelists here too. But the that trust factor, I think everybody tuning in has had that experience with their OR customers. Either, you know, they're currently going through it, there's a lack of trust, or they have been through that process as you kind of described, you know, realizing that and then building out of that in all the ways that we'll probably talk about here in the next few questions. I want to go back to the education piece, Karen, and kind of throw it over to you, because Amber mentioned, you know, you kind of looked around, you saw some tracers, you're probably talking to the staff, and like you're on the receiving end of education as well, right? Even at the leadership level. In the practical kind of, you know, day to day, again, you know, going back into that 2019, 2020 kind of time frame, in your challenges around education, like what are some specific examples of where you realized, you know, there may be a gap in education here, or even if it's not a gap, maybe there's just an opportunity to do more education, more creative, consistent, more standardized education?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that is exactly what we found with the education. And it started with us identifying that when we orient the staff, what education do we orient them on? We set up an orientation program that everyone gets onboarded with the exact same information. Some of it is just the basics of learning what instruments are. Some of the staff may be new and they have not, you know, they've had limited experience and have never done robot or cardiac instrumentation. How do we make sure that we provide them with the education and the resources to learn these instruments, or the resources to learn different ways of processing scopes? Maybe they've never used the Medivator and they've always used the Steris 1E. So really making sure that we have the resources available for them and providing this general orientation education for them when they get started. I work also with the medical groups, and they do the tabletop sterilizers and that kind of thing, and educating them on that process as well, and setting that up was a whole different ballgame. Things that they never realized, you know, were so important because they're so busy rooming patients and that type of thing, and setting this education up for them was very important as well.
You know, you bring up a very important point that I've just never really heard it described the way that you describe it, you know, but as I was sitting there listening, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what the challenge is that we've got technicians coming into our departments from all manners of different experience. And even like, if they have the same year's experience, let's say they were hiring like 2 people that have 3 years experience, they could have dramatically different types of experience with equipment, with instruments, with processes. And then at the end of it, through that onboarding education program that you're describing, we need to make sure that everybody at the end of that process now has that experience, inside that competency level in everything that we do at our facility. So the challenge is like everyone's starting at a different place, but everyone needs to end up at the same place through the onboarding and through that competency. And man, like that is really a unique, well, it's not a unique challenge, but it's a complicating challenge that everybody has to kind of get that fixed for. So I want to come back to that later when we talk about processes. Courtney, I want to throw over a follow-up out of what Embry said earlier about career ladders. And, you know, maybe this will even go into the buy-in around this push toward this award-winning season, you know, for the whole team, because we talk about that a lot. Like, how'd you get everybody else to buy in? It's one thing to get the leaders to buy in and say, hey, like, we're going to build something awesome. It's a whole nother thing to get everybody, like, from the top to bottom, from left to right, everybody's on board with the mission. And I got to think that, you know, career ladders is one thing that everybody can get behind. So kind of talk me through what that conversation was and how you approached that topic in particular.
Yeah, I think, you know, when I think about all of these things, to me, a lot of it goes towards the staff engagement. So really, to me, that's the bottom line is I need our staff engaged. And even with the career ladder, we can look at, yep, there were different levels of the organization. We wanted to make sure that people could move up. I think part of that also is teaching people is that breadth of experience in their current roles too. So a manager today, even though we had managers 3 years ago, looks completely different than what a manager 3 years ago does. And I think it's laying out those expectations and that development too, so that they have that sense of pride. The director looks completely different, that, you know, so that we have a sense of pride that we're doing more today than we were yesterday.
Speaking of doing more, I'm going to kind of segue here to one of the I'll say surprising themes that came up as I was preparing for this conference. I was through all the write-ups and I was creating like some talking points that I want to make sure to highlight from all of these teams. The one theme that just kept coming up again and again and again was point of use. And I knew that was a hot topic in the industry, but I didn't realize how critical of a piece it would be in these best-in-class stories, because I really feel like on that topic in particular, if you start getting that right and everything that it takes, just like what you're talking about, all the staff engagement that it takes to get point of use right, all the education like Karen talks about and getting point of use right, like all of this kind of ties in right at the beginning. So Embry, like, let me throw this one to you, I guess. In our reprocessing workflow, like it kind of starts in some sense at the point of use. Why did y'all start there? Like, why was that area of the whole workflow, everything that you could focus on, all the challenges, all the gaps, like why did you start at the point of use? And why was it such an integral part to building toward the success that you've experienced?
So for the department, starting at the point of use treatment was important because of the fact that, you know, everything from the OR that we send down, we have to reprocess. And getting the OR on board and having them understand that the impact that it has on us reprocessing those instruments allowed it to be a smoother process for us in decontam when we're reprocessing those instruments, and that we don't have to take further steps in the reprocessing process of it. So getting that all together, and at first we didn't have everything we needed to approach the OR with what we were finding. So with that said, the point of use treatment was our ideal push for trying to improve everything.
Courtney, when Embry says that y'all didn't have everything that you needed to approach the OR with this conversation, what does he mean?
So when I think of starting with point of use, I think that's such a great place to start because it's it's really beginning the conversations, and it's really, Embry talked about trust earlier. I can't come into an organization, or no one can come in and say, okay, you must trust us now. That's not going to happen. So with point of use, we were able to emphasize that this is a system and that it all works together. And that started for us with the data to say, stop with these, well, they always come down, or they never come down, sprayed, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so we were able to, we started paper logs, and we tracked it that way to begin with. Now we've evolved from paper logs in decon to now it's an electronic system that the OR gets a page or an email immediately, and they come to SPD to take a look.
Wow.
But it just started with that data and having those conversations, and then being able to say, this is what the standards say, but then also the rationale. This is why it's important that these instruments are kept moist. It's not just SPD, being punitive. It really allows us to clean the instruments better. So I think there's a whole lot that went into that.
And Karen, a lot of this point of use discussion kind of gets, segmented in different ways that does not always remember, hey, like scopes also have their own point of use cleaning challenges in the same way that, surgical instruments do. So at the same time that at the operating room team and everything was focusing on kind of that instrumentation, I'll say like stainless steel instrument point of use cleaning, was there also an emphasis on looking at and improving that point of use cleaning for your devices that are being high level disinfected as well?
Yes, that came to be a big part in a lot of the education that we created in going to each site, working with multiple procedural areas or medical groups that did use the flexible scope. And again, they did not understand the importance of the point of use treatment. They didn't understand, well, it's fine. We're done with it, you're gonna clean it, but they didn't understand the reason behind it. What happens if you don't do this? And, basically it could damage not only that, if you need it turned over, it'll be hours. If we don't do it within a certain amount of time, educating them and giving them this information on how important it is, and making sure that this is involved in the annual training and competencies of the staff as well. Competencying and training the new staff on the importance of this, and this is part of the process that they must do every single time. And that is very important.
I love that. So that's, I'm just gonna highlight that. Yeah, go ahead, Courtney, yep.
Yeah, I just said, as Karen's talking through this too, and as we talked about the data, one thing I would just, as a takeaway for people, and I guess it's a learning that we had, is when we started bringing data and really tracking this, I think the language you use is very important, because it can seem like, well, OR, you're showing me what's wrong with my trays. I'm going to show you what's wrong with point of use. And it was to the point that we even had some conversations, and this is in the industry, it wasn't, but really cautioning us that we shouldn't track this, because we shouldn't be pointing fingers. And we've actually been able to say, we are using this data to celebrate how compliant we are with point of use cleaning. And if a surveyor would come in or anytime, we have the data to show we are very compliant. This is not something that we do when somebody's watching. This is something that we do every day. And I think that's a really powerful thing to be able to showcase for our team.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's data or oftentimes our departments can get in this battle of, I've called it in the past, gotcha journalism, where feel like you'll get photos, from both teams. And like, I'm a big fan of photos. Like, it's good to document in those ways, but not in the purposes of gotcha journalism, like what we're talking about here, to make the other team look bad or to make them feel like, hey, like, you know, you're the one that's breaking the process, but we've got it all together. It can be, and it should be used collaboratively, to your sense. The data tells a story, and it's an objective story. There's no emotions in the data. And then from that, you know, then we come as a team and we could get those processes tweaked. So I really love that insight and follow up there. I also want to highlight, you know, something that Karen said too, that's another practical takeaway is that point of use cleaning in the annual competencies of other departments outside of sterile processing. I think we do a lot of conversations around, hey, get our competencies created and up to date and standardized, and all that is critically important. But then this point of use thing is like, those are not our people. Like, we don't do competencies on them. There's another department that does competencies on them. So getting that point, though, added into their competencies on a regular basis and during that onboarding. So many folks struggle with like new techs coming into the OR, new nurses, or travelers, right? You know, coming in and they're not familiar with our processes, with our policies. And if there's not a good competency check in that orientation onboarding process, then you can get those outliers, you know, adding up pretty quickly if you're not catching them along the way. So I think that was a great point there, Karen, as well. Let's talk about the people in this story. Obviously, at the heart of any great success story, there's going to be people behind the story. And I know everybody coming on for the conference today, like, you would love to just bring your whole team, right? It'd be great to have like 20, 30, 40, 50 folks on to be able to tell the whole story from everyone's perspective. But I want to kind of speak to y'all in that vision, in that vein, you know, from the people part of it. Can you give us some highlights on how the people part of this led to the success, led to the award? Like, what about the people here, like, really this a unique experience of process improvement, growth? And I'll throw that to Courtney first.
So I think, you know, it's really starting with the team, and it's really, it's the diverse, we have a very diverse team. If we had a team of all Courtneys, we would not be very strong. And I think that, I think that is really our strength. I know who to go to if I need assistance, and we can really learn and grow from each other. And it's really, you know, we talk about 2020 and just really a group of people that are resilient, who look for ways to make things happen. You know, when we were down, we were able to keep staff employed. We were able to help other areas. We were able to comb through IFUs, and we learned some things there. And really a team that cares about each other. And when you care about each other, you don't want to let each other down. And I think that that's such a simple yet powerful thing. The power of the team is really strong.
And that's not something, Embry, that you can put in an orientation process and say, hey, we're going to teach you to care about each other, right? Yeah. I don't know if that can be taught, but it's hired. You can hire that type of culture in. You can reward that type of culture. But kind of talk us through, like, you know, what that team dynamic that, you know, Courtney's describing, like, how do you manage the culture in your department? I guess that's the way to ask it.
I would say by just explaining to everybody the why behind everything, why the changes we're making, and what impact it has on the procedures, on the patients, what it has on the organization. I would also say that, you know, just explaining to everyone how easier it is to get something accomplished together as a team versus doing things where you have a select few individuals that's doing everything and then everyone else isn't. So explaining to the team exactly working together as a team to accomplish a goal and what our goals are not just expecting people to just do something. You know, from what, to piggyback on what Courtney said, I lean on a lot of my colleagues who are managers because they came in with different experiences. So with that said, I reach out to them all the time when I have questions, and you know that's a big help. And that's the same atmosphere that we want for our department, is that they reach out to each other and they work together to try to resolve any issues or concerns that may come up in the department.
I love that. On the training piece there, Karen, obviously training and culture go together, even though there's some things you can't necessarily train, but you can definitely lead by example, right? I want to ask you though, in particular, the team approach to training. And I've seen this a lot in departments around the country. Like you'll have a department educator and there'll be kind of this assumption that, hey, we have an educator, and so they're the only person that can or should be doing any kind of training or teaching, right? Because that's their job, and everyone else's job is just to get the work done. How do you counteract that in a way that includes everybody's insights and perspectives, like Courtney was mentioning, right? Like there's a diversity of background and experience and strengths that then complement all the training and all the culture building that's going on. How do you kind of develop that that model and understanding of the team approach?
Well, I think one thing is, like Embry had mentioned, that we have found that as we've been working together, the whole culture has changed, and we work together in all 4 sites, and we see, you know, everyone has their gifts. And so we are able to reach out to them. But what we've also done is use staff and have them help educate and train staff as well. Build them up in this other position that they can work together with staff in training and educating on new scopes that come in, new processes. They can help identify where we need in-servicing for new staff and identify those things. But with that being said, also that we have worked together as a team, but all 4 hospital sites, we through this time we've had staff go from site to site to help each other out, and so it creates this team like they know each other now, where before we didn't even know who worked at that other site. Now we know Bob works over there and we're going to see him. He's coming to help us when someone calls in. And it's just seeing that collaboration of working together. And they know this educator because they've seen them at their site and they see them all over. We see everyone all over. So it creates that team approach that they feel comfortable. They know who I can reach out to, who is the specialist in scopes, who is the specialist in robots or eye instruments because they specialize at, you know, this site, who I can reach out to and feel comfortable talking to, and we use that specialty to help grow others as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it adds value to
Go ahead, Embry.
No, I was going to say it also adds value to our technicians,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to our team.
I think maybe this was a comment that you made earlier, Embry, around that the need for standardized education, because you can't go from site to site, like Karen was talking about, if there's not a standardized education model out there that everyone knows the processes, the way, a NorthShore way of doing things versus his particular site's way of doing things, that there is that ability to use the same language, to use the same processes. So really, really critical and important there. I want to kind of pause here just for a second to go through some questions that we're getting in from the audience. If you've got any questions that you'd like to throw us out here, please either use the Q&A function there at the bottom. I'm going to throw the first one to you, Embry, here about the career ladder, because this is one, again, that you brought up. It's a question from Arlene Barnes. When do you know when to move up the career ladder if you're new to this career field? So I think this is a question on kind of that personal decision, like when do you know you're ready?
So for technicians, what we've asked of technicians and what we explain to technicians is that, hey, are you able to do what's in your job description? And are you prepared, and are you willing to train and cross-train into the other position? I think when it comes down to going up that career ladder, I think that there's a lot of consideration in regards to the experience and what you're bringing to that position. Like I said, there was positions that I stepped into that I felt like, hey, I wish I would have had a little bit more education before I stepped into this position, because of the fact that I wasn't prepared for it. And I feel like there's a lot of technicians that weren't prepared for positions that they was put in. And that was probably because of the training that they had. And now the culture is that we're preparing individuals to be prepared for that position that they want to go into. And also being able to voice their opinion, saying, hey, this is where I want to be at. Asking that question during the interview, saying, hey, what do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a supervisor? How can I help you get there? And then just laying it out for them, having a career platform.
Wow. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see me nodding my head, but I'm nodding my head and like, yes, you need to ask those questions in the interview, in the annual, in your annual review, like, where do you want to be? How can I help you get there? Like, those are awesome questions. And it goes back, to building that team that's bought in, like Courtney was saying, like, that is what builds staff engagement. If your staff believe that you believe in them and you want them to grow and succeed in all the areas, even like Karen was saying, like into those kind of specialist roles where people know, hey, like Bob is the one to go to for scopes because they've really invested the time and the education and the insight to grow and continue to learn in that space. Really, really cool. Let's go to another question here, and I'm going to throw this one over to Courtney. This is a question around that tracking system alert to the OR. I think we caught a lot of attention there because folks are like, hey, that's new, that's different, that's kind of cool. The question is the specific system. So let's not throw out any brand names or anything, but can you just maybe talk through that system a little bit more so folks understand exactly how it works and what it does and where the value has been for your team?
So, yeah, when we do the original, the decontam receive, and we are assessing the trays, we're just able to scan that tray and then put it directly into the tracking system and say, we have our categories. It's a drop down, biohazard. It's all aligned with AMI ST79. And then if there's anything that is not compliant, we send that the alert goes to the OR right away. And when they can, now I'm not saying it's 100% because there's certain times there are things going on in the OR more important than the point of use in SPD, but either their educator or a manager or assistant manager will come down and take a look at it. And that's been very critical too, because sometimes we will say, we go to the point of instrument in original container. That's really helping the whole process if these instruments aren't all mixed up. And they'll come down and it may be, well, we did it because we were protecting the instruments and we didn't want to put a heavy one on top of it. Or, we have those discussions so that we can align expectations. And then in that case, if it's like, oh, that really wasn't an issue, we can back it out of the system. And then that is on a real-time dashboard. I could look today to see how many point of use events we've had so far in the month of October. So very powerful.
It is powerful, and it's an interesting approach again to the data piece, because I think earlier, like you described this, then you just brought it up again, and that the data doesn't determine your reaction. It gets the conversation started to ask additional questions, just like you said, yes, like it was not properly point of use treated, but then the operating room actually had a decent explanation for why they were doing what they were doing. So now you use the data to change a different process and make it easier for them to do the right thing in the right way. So yeah, approach, I think, to the power of data. I've got a question specifically to Karen here. They called you out, Karen, so they really want to know your answer to this. And I think this goes back maybe to your experience in the industry, that 25 years that you've been serving here. And the question is, the change that we're seeing in the industry, like how have you seen sterile processing change through the years, particularly as it relates to new technologies that are being evolved, kind of like automation? Like where do you see it today, or like where do you see it going in the future?
Oh, I just think about when I started, you know, there was no robotic instruments. When I started, there wasn't even laparoscopic instruments. So you look at how far things have come in how we care for the patients. So I look at that, but I look at also through my experience how it has changed in sterile processing. Like when I first started, this was just a job, but then the next place I went, I really found out why what we do is so important, and it helped me say, oh my gosh, I want to make sure this is the best, I do the best I can, because I was able to go up and see in the OR this doctor operating on a child, and he explained to me, why is it so important what you do in sterile processing, how you provide me with the proper equipment, because this is why. And you see it, what happens with what we do in sterile processing after we do our part. It gives you a better understanding and gives you such a passion for making sure you do the right thing and want to learn more about it. You want to learn more. I start telling people, you know, some stories that I've experienced in the past, and they say, Karen, can we do that? Can we go up and do it? Come on, you know, and so they want to learn more. And so just, you know, sharing how things were in the past and seeing where they are now and helping them just get more involved in that helps us as a department, as a career, to do the best. And as Courtney mentioned, that career ladder, what we do here is something that I have never seen before. They're so supportive in, like Embry said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? In finding a way to build those staff up and bring them to a place that they see they want to be after they've seen all they've learned here. They have a passion to make a difference and to grow in this industry.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, those experiences, if you ever get to go see a surgery as you described, they really are formative in the career of a new sterile processing technician or an experienced one who's never actually seen those surgeries. And I know we've said it a number of times on the podcast before, but the surgical instrument is the only thing that comes into direct contact with the patient. You know, the doctor has gloves on, they're not touching the patient, but those surgical instruments that we touched, like they're going skin to skin with the patient. They're going from our skin in the assembly area through sterilization to the patient's skin in the OR. It's very cool. You're making me get emotional now, so let me move on before I get too emotional. Okay. We got about 10, 11 minutes left here, and I want to talk about processes and products. You know, Beyond Clean's philosophy is we need all three of these things. We need the people. We need good processes. Obviously, we've been talking about a lot of the processes along the way here, and we need products to do our jobs. Well, let's start on that process piece, because the theme of this session is connections and quality, the power of sterile processing partnerships. So quality, really built in there at the ground level, at the foundation. How did you define it in this process, Courtney? So everybody wants quality, everybody's shooting for quality, but how did you lay it out as a team, kind of with the vision to say, this is what we're targeting, this is what we're shooting for? And then along the way, how did you track it and see the change?
So I think along the same lines as the point of use, you need to align expectations. This is what we expect in sterile processing that's aligned with the standards. This is why. Then we did the same thing with the OR to say, work with our OR partners. And they said, this is what we expect. We expect the trays on time. We expect them to be clean and sterile and complete. And aligning those expectations. And then again, we tracked that manually at first, just from manual count sheets and Excel spreadsheets, because I wanted to see how often it happened. And we were tracking everything. And then in the meantime, now we've been able to put that also in our tracking system. And so then it tracks every month what that rate looks like. We do track it as a rate over trays sterilized, because, if you have a really light month and maybe your OR quality event stayed the same, it really got worse because, volume matters. So that's something that we track with the data. And, I think, just using that to tell the story and then decide what you need to focus on. Oh, if our number one hitter quality event this month is holes, then we're probably not going to keep working on missing integrators. It's like, let's make the most use of our resources.
I like that that comment around the metrics, or how you're determining the denominator on your quality measurement, because I know that's conversations out there in the industry that folks are having, and it's one of the reasons that it's so hard to compare ourselves to others in that whole benchmarking conversation, because we're all measuring different things in different ways. All of our data is challenged in different places. And so I am personally a huge fan of just internal benchmarking, like what you're describing. Where are we today? Where do we want to be tomorrow? Let's track the data and let's get there. I want to throw this next question over to Embry. Products I mentioned, if you walk into a sterile processing department that has no products in it, it's going to be a pretty empty place, right? You're not going to have any tables, any equipment, any surgical instruments, any trays, any disposables. You're not even going to have a floor, because you got to buy flooring from, it's going to be an open field. It's basically what you're going to be stepping into. So all that to say, we need products to do our jobs. Without naming any names, what role did specific types of products or equipment play in this, building the best in class team and process and department that you have there at NorthShore? I think you may be muted there, Embry. Are you?
I would say that automated flushing systems for our lumens, automated systems for our flexible endoscopes. I will also say manifold racks for instrument watchers. If you have instrument, Da Vinci instruments, that makes the process more efficient. Also, which machines that you need for which instrument. So that can vary in regards to what type of equipment you have. Also, ergonomic, taking into consideration the staff. Everybody's not the same height, so taking into consideration the sinks that you have, and that's pretty much where I stand in regards to the equipment. Is just having it where it's best fit for your department, and that shows the team that you're adding value to them and that you care about their safety and their health.
Yeah, I love that. The automated flushing, huge win, huge advancement in technology. Back to the question we talked to Karen about earlier, that's massive. And those manifolds, they don't get enough love, right? So I love that shout out that you gave, because they can be such a tremendous asset or a tremendous headache if you don't have the right ones, or if you don't have enough, or if they're not working properly. Like, oh man, we need to talk more about manifolds. So Karen, back to the education conversation. I'm really curious on if and what role vendor education played in supporting your team. You mentioned kind of early on the importance of equipment training. And of course, who knows the best about equipment than the vendors themselves? Did you leverage or utilizing the vendor education in this journey?
Yeah, that has been so important, and it continues to be. Everything from the ultrasonic to new scope to power equipment, that they are the subject matter experts. And so they are the ones that provide us with the best education for our staff, especially, you know, if you have a lot of new staff. You know, there's staffing all over with COVID and everything. We have new staff. There is no reason why we can't bring them in a number of times to do this education on this new drill or whatever it is, because we have new people. It doesn't mean that our staff, our educators, or our preceptors cannot train them on it, but it's always so good to have that information from the subject matter expert, because they can probably answer questions, you know, the educators or the preceptors cannot. You know, different questions the staff may have about it, like, what are you even going to use this drill on? You know, just different questions. They will be able to answer that and tell them information that we couldn't. So, and it's been so very helpful.
I love that. And you're right. You know, the worst that they can say is no, but you might as well ask, right? Ask and see if they can come in and support. And if they say no, you know, I'm not saying that there's never a good reason to say no, because I know their teams are just as short staffed as our teams out there today, but it's good to, you know, hold them accountable. If you're spending a lot of money on equipment or supplies, they should be coming in on a regular basis to do that type of education that Karen's talking about. As we kind of move to a close here, folks, tremendous conversation, great story, great team. Like, I can feel the passion through each of you, you know, coming through the screen in my headphones here on the commitment, you know, to building that team approach to quality, to education, to connecting with your mission. All of that kind of wrapped up into one. And I want to throw out a question to Courtney, and then we'll go like around to everybody here as we wrap up on my last question. But Courtney first. The folks who are tuning in who are considering creating their own industry-leading department, what kind of key advice would you give? Like, where do you think they should start, or where did you maybe surprise yourself in what you learned along the way that you think could help folks as they start this journey?
I think a gap analysis, you know, it's not going to look the same for everyone. So it's really being honest with yourself, maybe bringing in outside set of eyes to be candid with what the opportunities are. And then I think the other thing is really the staff development. You have to teach your staff to be able to critically think, to ask why, to understand, because one person, even if, you know, two, you can't do it on your own, because everyone will keep asking you, what do I do? What do I do? And you really need to empower and develop your staff so that it's not all on one or two people.
So starting with our last question, I'm going to go Courtney first, and then we'll go around the horn here. The award is an awesome accomplishment. I mean, I don't think there is a higher kind of threshold for a team recognition in our industry today. It's really the pinnacle. What has been the long-term impact? I know we're not too far, right? So that y'all probably got notified of your win in March or April, right? So you're still probably on the high of, hey, we just won this thing. But in the last couple of months, what's been the longer term on yourself, on your team, on the facility? Like, what's kind of been the conversation since the win?
I think just really that anything is possible. We did a lot of work in, some very challenging years. We're always looking at what's next. So we're not really, it's been a great award, but now it's okay. What are we going to do now? And the recognition that there's so many great departments out there. We were fortunate to have won it. But yeah, looking forward to what's next.
Awesome. Karen, what about you? What's the long-term impact on yourself, on your team, and on your facility?
Well, I think, we still celebrate this wonderful achievement that we've gotten because, well, especially for me that I've worked here, I've never worked at a hospital that has gotten this award, so this is wonderful. So for me, it's like just having people see, oh my goodness, what else can we do? We did this, and give everyone that passion to, we can do even more, just being excited about what else we can do and get everyone engaged and excited about that. And who knows where we're going to be.
I love that. That's tremendous. All right, Embry, we'll give you the last word. What's the long-term impact on yourself and your team?
For the team and myself, I think it adds value to what we do as sterile processing technicians and leaders. It adds value to our industry. When you, like you said earlier, when you explain to people about sterile processing, you have to go into so much details. But getting this recognition has definitely added value to the team and to myself.
All right, well, thank you all again for a terrific conversation. If anyone's curious to read more, go check out the HBN Hall of Fame. This is the 2022 winner. And with that, we're going to turn it back over to Brett.
All right. Thanks, guys. That was a really good conversation. A lot of good takeaways. Probably need to watch that one again because of so many great conversations in that one. So one of the things that stuck out to me was what Courtney said was in relation to the teams, was when you care about each other, you don't want to let each other down. So that was a good takeaway when it comes to working together as a team, something that we at Beyond Clean are a big proponent of, and I certainly am as well. So thanks, guys. If you have any other questions, if you'd like to reach out to Karen, Courtney, or Embry, or even Hank, I mean, you see Hank all the time on social media, but please feel free to reach out to them through their LinkedIn page or also through their emails located on the screen here on the right side. So appreciate everybody for jumping on with us. What a great session. We've got a bunch more coming at you, discussions, the same format. So we're ditching the PowerPoints today. So please stick with us. If you also have questions about the CEs, we have our guide on the right side that you can reference as far as accessing your CEs. But at the end of today's conference, you will be sent a link to fill out a survey, and then your CE certificate will be emailed to you. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you in about just under 15 minutes. Thank you.